I'm Matt.
I'm Shane.
And if you like what you hear, make sure you hit that thumbs up button real hard, and make sure you subscribe to Comic Movie Marks.
And also click that little bell for all of the notifications.
Whee!
Always remember,
if Trailer Trash can do it,
anyone can do it.
And here we go.
What?
You serious?
hello and welcome everyone to another Comic Movie Marks video.
Holy Director's Cut Batman. Justice League fans demand a new version of a superhero flop. That's the article we're going to be talking about. People have been anticipating this video, which is awesome. It's awesome that we've kind of built a little bit of a following.
Pressure!
Here we are.
The pressure! All right. Yeah, no pressure at all, guys.
Yes,
thanks a lot.
Yeah. So we'll do the best we can.
We're just two middle-aged balding guys that have no fucking clue what we're doing on YouTube, and everybody's like, are you going to do a video on this? Like, our last video, almost no one talked about the video. It was like, did you see the Wall Street Journal article? No.
I guess that's our niche, finding articles and then talking shit about them.
That's the thing. So I guess we have to please the masses.
Exactly. They don't realize we have a hard time coming up with content, and we're like, yeah, we'll just talk about this article.
No, I didn't plan on it. We had so much to do.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, I guess we'll just fucking Ben Fritz at it again. Wall Street Journal.
Real quick, I want to start off that, throughout this, we're just going to read this article. We're not going to insert any videos or say anything negative about this guy or anything negative at all. It will be a completely somber and straightforward video, guys.
What were you
We're going to be ripping this thing apart. This whole article will be dismantled in so many ways, but we will actually stick to that, not insulting the article writer Ben Fritz at all. I will do my personal best. I can't say anything for Shane because he's an animal, but I will do my best not to call this guy a fuckstick or a cock gobbler or anything in that way. I will do my best. I'm being serious, actually, besides those little remarks, that we will not insult this guy in any way because he is just doing his quote-unquote job, even if we find it extremely lazy.
Oh, man. The only thing that I will say is I think that we need to add journalists into our bio as well, because he has journalists, and I use that term loosely, covering the film biz, Disney, and more in his bio on Twitter. He also uses it in the Wall Street Journal. So if he can put journalists, I mean, the Marks should be able to as well, right?
Well, actually, funny you say that. Apparently somebody sent him an email, and he titles it an all-time great reader email. And the person says, I have never read the Wall Street Journal before, but having read your article, I have gotten a much better understand, he put understand, not understanding, understand of the quality of work required to work for such a firm. Where can I submit my application? Working for a news organization that requires zero research and a lot of sarcasm is definitely something I would excel at. And given that your work was published, I truly don't believe a college level education will be required for my acceptance. I don't know who that's from. He posted it on his Twitter. Ben Fritz did.
Wow, that's shocking. Well, good for him.
He does have a sense of humor.
Yeah,
I guess. I don't know how he feels right now, but yeah, he definitely has a sense of humor. So that's kind of funny. But again, we're gonna do our best to just refute the article. We are just gonna talk about what was put in the article and not the person. And I suggest everybody not to attack the individual himself, because that does nothing in this situation. We just need to prove that his laziness and his inability to do even the most minute form of research is pathetic. Also, on a side note, I just also want to say, before we continue this, we will do one small thing. I love Shane's response to this, by the way, in text message form. And this was that after he couldn't figure out how to read the article, and I finally showed him how to. Fucking
Wall Street Journal, you bastards. I'm not going to pay $12 a year. I'm too cheap for it, so fuck you. It's not happening.
After a long, not that long of a pause, after I finally seen him, all I get was a text saying, fuck that guy. And it was just funny. It just made me laugh out loud at work. It was just very simplistic. Very simplistic. Fuck that guy.
I try to approach, as we do with everything, with Marvel movies, we try to always go into them with, let me see how I take this. And Matt had said something, I saw some of the comments of, oh, did you read this Wall Street Journal article? So I was like, no, let me give the guy the benefit of the doubt. And then I go into it, I'm like, this motherfucker. Like, as I'm reading it, that's the only thing I can think of. And trying to give Ben the benefit of the doubt, and fucking just blew up.
How do you sleep at night?
I do like how I found out about the article was even released, was I'm looking at our Twitter notifications, and some people saying, I can't wait for Comic Movie Mark's video on this article. I'm like, huh? What? What the fuck? What article? What's going on?
Where's the article?
I was very confused. I was like, what the fuck's going on? Who did what? Where? What?
This may come to a surprise to a lot of you, but we're not very well read.
Oh, and you're a regular Rhodes Scholar. Where was it you graduated from again? The University of Duh.
So to try to find the Wall Street Journal article was
how do you spell wall?
Yeah.
So let's get to the article. That's what people are here for.
So Mr. Ben starts off by saying, in the annals of director's cuts that restored a movie to its creator's original vision stand such greats as Ridley Scott's Blade Runner and Sergio Leone's Once Upon a Time in America. I may have pronounced Leone's wrong. Now some fans are pushing for Zack Snyder's Justice League to join those ranks, even though no such version may exist yet.
You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
Seriously, dude.
Second paragraph.
Second paragraph. Dude, come on, man. I honestly thought with the Screen Rant article, with the Revenge of the Fans article, and just how much Jay Oliva has been out there, and all these other smaller sites have been reporting on him, some of the bigger ones too as well, have been talking about storyboard artists, says Zack Snyder Cut exists. Snyder Cut exists. And it's all over the place. And we'll bring it up later, the fact that you talked to Jay Oliva,
exactly,
is another thing that I find very suspicious as well, that you actually went this route to even insert the fact that it may not exist. It's kind of sad. It really is. I thought at this point we were past that. I really did. I thought we had enough articles and Oliva had made enough ground with most of the people that would at least be in the know-how. Someone that's working for the Wall Street Journal anyway would be able to at least say, okay, it exists, but are we going to get it?
Right.
That's the question. How much of it's done? That's the other question. Not does it exist. We're past this.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Ben does a fantastic job at kind of formatting this entire article as kind of backhanded compliments almost, of like, oh, devotees have grown especially hopeful. And he talks about it like, here's the facts, but then he'll throw in this little snide comment of, even though no such version may exist yet. And that's one thing that I've noticed as the article plays out and as you're reading it. And when I first read this and I got to that point, I'm like, okay, give him the benefit of the doubt and continued on. But yeah, when you find out that he's actually interviewed several different people, you're like, dude, you gotta be fucking kidding me. The direction this article should have been completely different.
Devotees have grown especially hopeful about the prospect of Snyder Cut news with Thursday's start of Comic-Con in San Diego, where studios frequently make big announcements to gathered pop culture fanatics.
That's exactly what I'm talking about right there. That little paragraph in this article is, sounds kind of positive. Like, oh yeah, this is exactly what the devotees are looking for. People who really want the Snyder Cut. they are hoping that San Diego Comic-Con will be the place that they get it. That's where studios frequently make big announcements, so it makes sense. And he's kind of laying it out there of like, yeah, all right, that makes sense.
Never mind that Justice League fizzled at the box office last November. He likes using that word fizzled. I was reading some other stuff by him, and he uses that for everything. And helped drive Time Warner Inc., Warner Bros., to replace the executive team that oversees the DC Comics superheroes on the big screen. See, this is where I wish I could ask and put in question, why do you think that was? What do you think happened that made them all get either shifted to another spot or be completely removed?
Yep.
And then he put, or that Zack Snyder's prior superhero opus, I guess this word is, Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, scored a 27% on Rotten Tomatoes and was called god-awful by New York Magazine and one of the most assaultive movies ever made by the Wall Street Journal. I'm actually kind of surprised that, one, he would bring up Rotten Tomatoes, because that's not a real system. We all know it's not a real system. It's just a score. So it's just a way to drag down the article. He talks about Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. Nowhere does he bring up the Ultimate Cut, by the way. I'll just bring that up, which is a director's cut, and which he will shit on later on. But he talks about the movie was called god-awful by the New York Magazine and one of the most assaultive movies ever made by the Wall Street Journal. There's something I brought up a long time ago before we ever had subscribers, so I'll bring it up again now. This is an article that was published not too long ago. Actually, it was a while back, but John Carpenter's The Thing, which was released in June of 1982. Writing for the New York Times, noted movie critic Vincent Cabby described the movie as foolish, depressing, with its actors used merely as props to be hacked, slashed, disemboweled, and decapitated, finally to be eaten and then regurgitated. It is too phony to be disgusting. It qualifies only as instant junk. Now, Time Magazine dismissed The Thing as an exercise of abstract art, while Roger Ebert, in a slightly less aggressive review, described it as a great barf bag movie. And then you look at The Thing now. John Carpenter's The Thing is widely regarded as one of the greatest horror movies of all times. And there's tons of articles about how bad the critics got it wrong and the verbal onslaught they laid on this movie. He's going to use that verbiage in his article without thinking of the past. And this is always our issue with a lot of these things, that people don't remember the past and don't believe that the current system is flawed in any way. So he's going to use the score, and he's going to use those pull quotes without thinking of The Thing by John Carpenter, where it was considered to be, qualifies as instant junk.
Well, why the big secret? People are smart. They can handle it.
A person is smart. People are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, and you know it. 1,500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was the center of the universe. 500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was flat. And 15 minutes ago, you knew that people were alone on this planet.
Imagine what you'll know tomorrow.
Yeah, but we've talked about, I believe on some of our Rotten Tomatoes videos, we've compared other ones, such as The Shining, that was panned, The Exorcist. Yep. Obviously, these are all horror films, but these are films that were just panned after they came out of the theater, after they were released, and just completely shit on, and now they're held in such high regard, and people love those. I think The Poltergeist was another one. Just several films, not just in that genre. We had some other examples, but they were completely shit on, and years later the tune changes. So Ben actually, which I thought this was kind of cool, he has some different pictures that you could cycle through, and he lists some different films that were re-edited and reshot and given a different director's cut. Apocalypse Now, the 2001 redo of the 1979 Vietnam War epic, included a reworked narrative from director Francis Ford Coppola. Coppola, thank you. Re-edited sequences and 49 minutes of previously unseen footage. So almost completely changed. Third one of the most popular ones, Blade Runner. Filmmaker Ridley Scott provides notes but didn't actually oversee the 1992 director's cut of his 1982 science fiction classic. His definitive version came 15 years later with the final cut, which included violent scenes previously seen only outside the U.S.
Real quick, I want to point something out, because this will come up later in the article. Ridley Scott provided notes, but didn't actually oversee the 1992 director's cut. He provided notes, but he wasn't there for it. Well, we'll see what happens when we get to later in the article.
And then one that we have covered in great detail is Superman 2. The early 2000s, Warner Brothers discovered lost footage from the 1980 film shot by Richard Donner. Actually wasn't lost footage. It was...
I was about to say...
in vaults.
It was in a vault in London. 6 tons of footage.
But it was lost. He writes as if they like picked up a box,
tripped
and was
over
like,
the box.
Yeah, what's this?
Oh,
Kind of dusted off. Oh shit! This is Superman 2. Wow, can't believe it.
All right, dust it off and let's throw it into print.
So obviously that's one of the bigger ones as well that we have covered in detail. Then the final one that he lists, Once Upon a Time in America. Sergio Leone originally wanted his 1984 gangster drama to be 6 hours long.
Good God.
Wow. Zack Snyder has nothing on him. The studio refused. Instead, European audiences saw a nearly 4-hour version, while Americans just got 2 hours and 19 minutes. In 2012, a restored 51-minute extended director's cut played at the Cannes Film Festival. Wow.
And there's a lot of other ones that he's leaving out, obviously. Yeah, I mean, you could even look at Zack Snyder as the biggest example. This guy is the king of the director's cuts. Watchmen, Sucker Punch, BVS, Ultimate Edition. There's 3 right there alone that he's had to wait and get his director's cut version, which added a lot of missing footage. Alone, right there, the guy that he's actually talking about in this article has had several different director's cuts. Amazing he left any of that out.
Yeah, this guy's a genius. An ardent group of fans believe Batman v Superman was powerful, relatable, visually stunning, smart, witty, and fun.
Fun? I want to know one person that said BVS was fun. I mean, we talked about that we enjoyed ourselves when we watched it. We had fun watching it, meaning we got joy out of watching it because, I think 2006 was the year of Joyless, if I remember right. But I never heard anybody like, I really like that part where Batman poked Superman in the eyes. It was fucking funny as shit.
Whoop, 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 whoop. And demonstrated a level of care unparalleled in modern cinema, as another said in an online video. They see it as a worthy successor to Mr. Snyder's 2013 Superman film, Man of Steel. My favorite part, another violent superhero movie that polarized fans and critics.
So what I think he's talking about with violent is this right here. Oh shit, my bad, guys. Wrong video. I meant to hit this one.
Shit.
Okay, you know what? I'm just going to give up on trying to show the video because I can't find it right now, and all these other ones are coming up. My keys are sticking on my keyboard, so we'll just skip over that. Go ahead and continue, Shane.
I don't want to know why your keys are sticking on your keyboard, but I digress. They believe Justice League, in which Batman and Wonder Woman assemble a team of superheroes, would complete his visionary trilogy. Instead, these believers in truth, justice, and the Snyder Way got what they derisively refer to as Justice League.
I actually like that, by the way. Truth, justice, and the Snyder Way.
Yeah.
I think that's actually pretty good. Top-notch job there, Ben. After Mr. Snyder stepped aside in early 2017 following a family tragedy, I actually find funny that he did use that. He used the step aside. Because so many nowadays want to refer to him as being fired. Yeah. And I also love that, by the way. I see that in comments a lot. Some people were giving us shit on our Donner Cut video saying he didn't step away. He got fired. Did you not see this? Blah, blah, blah. Did you not read the articles? It was reported on a while back. It's amazing to me how much people don't go back to the source of what these articles are about. Just because Den of Geek, Heroic Hollywood, comicbook.com, CBR.com regurgitate the same title over and over again doesn't make it true. And then go back to the source. The source was a disgruntled guy on Twitter that wrote an article 6 months prior saying that what he really meant in the article was that Snyder was fired. That was the source. That was what it originated from, him saying he was fired. A guy on Twitter in 160 characters or less. Whatever the limit is on Twitter.
I was going to say,
idea.
I think they extended it, but, beside the point.
You get the point. That's the source. So anybody that ever says that shit drives me nuts. Go back to the source, cock. Sorry, my bad. Trying to not name call. Joss Whedon, the director of Marvel's Avengers, took over.
Oh, dear God, no!
Mr. Whedon had already been brought on to rewrite parts of the movie and oversaw several weeks of reshoots and a new edit the studio had requested. A new edit of what, Ben? I'm just curious. Because you said the Snyder Cut may or may not exist. A new edit of what? Maybe the Snyder Cut?
And the truth shall set you free!
Just a thought. The final film was notably shorter and less violent than Mr. Snyder's previous solo work. I'm fucking tempted to play those videos again. Work and features snappy dialogue. Woohoo! Familiar to fans of the Buffy the Vampire Slayer TV series, which Mr. Whedon created. I've never even seen fucking Buffy.
I laughed so hard, and I was really trying to compose myself. I was reading this part again of like, yes, that's exactly who we wanted to direct Justice League, is the fucking guy who did Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Thank you, our fucking savior, man. I'm so glad he stepped in. Buffy the fucking Vampire Slayer. Damn. Fucking holy shit. He does mention Avengers. Okay, fair enough. But why would you do that? Why would you bring that in? Just stick to the Avengers narrative that everyone else does of like, yeah, look, it made $1 billion. Woo! But the fact that you throw in the snappy dialogue of fucking Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Wow. Bravo to you, Ben.
Justice League, with a Rotten Tomato score of 40%, grossed $658 million worldwide. Again, he brings up the top Rotten Tomato score. Not sure why. A weak total for a movie that cost about $300 million to make. It's also less. Yeah, no. It's also less than the grosses for Batman v Superman, $874 million, Man of Steel, $668 million, and last year's widely lauded Warner/DC hit Wonder Woman, directed by Patty Jenkins, $822 million. I have no idea if lauded is the right word. This guy apparently hits up his fucking Hooked on Phonics books every his encyclopedia.
That's encyclopedia.
Or Hooked on Phonics, either one. He excelled at that. Mr. Whedon declined to comment through a spokesman.
Mr. Whedon declined to comment, but, of course, a spokesman of Zack Snyder said no, he will not be at Comic-Con, and no, there is no version of the Snyder Cut.
I'm actually kind of impressed with Whedon's reluctance to say anything, to be honest. For a guy that's very outspoken about a lot of other things, especially politics, and he didn't seem too keen on holding anything back when he totally freaked out and lost his shit and got off Twitter during Age of Ultron. I'm actually very surprised on his composure of not saying anything about this.
Yeah.
So it does kind of lend a little bit of credence that maybe he was just, we always said this, that maybe he just shouldn't have taken the job, really. And he knows what he did, but at the same time, he does seem like a very reluctant individual in this situation. But again, he should have just never taken it, and don't put in your stupid Flash falling on Wonder Woman's tits joke. One Snyder disciple recently tweeted an altered version of the painting of Jesus giving his Sermon on the Mount, replacing the Son of God with the director holding Justice League Snyder Cut DVD, which actually is a pretty funny pic, by the way, by @ZodWriter. So let it be written, so let it be done. Again, this guy apparently can't take a joke.
I think he's trying to use the word disciple in a condescending
he's trying to make these people look crazy. Yeah, he thinks this looks people crazy. But
absolutely.
To me, it's funny.
I was kind of like, oh yeah, fair enough. And ZodWriter, great picture. Like we've made the joke on our show, Lord Snyder, our Savior Snyder, shit like that all the time. So,
but it's a joke.
At the
end of the day,
exactly.
It's just like Wayne's World. It's just the joke. It's the comedic error. We're not worthy. We're not worthy. It's the same thing.
We're not worthy! We're not worthy! We're not worthy! We're scum! We're scum!
It's been around forever.
Yeah.
It's jokingly saying that you find someone really cool.
Exactly. But fucking Ben Fritz decides to try to use it in the derogatory term. So Mr. Snyder himself has teased fans in recent months by posting behind-the-scenes photos from Justice League online, driving feverish attempts to interpret what signal he might be sending. A spokeswoman said Mr. Snyder wouldn't discuss a director's cut. Mr. Snyder never watched the version of Justice League released in theaters, she said.
That right there is truly amazing. So then Collider has an article based off that paragraph talking about Snyder has apparently never seen the finished film. We knew about this months ago. We knew about this before Justice League even came out. Again, just an iota of research would tell you this. You don't need to talk to a spokeswoman. You just look at Snyder's Vero, the one that you were just talking about in the previous paragraph where he's released things on Vero talking about his Justice League, the clips, the pictures, the storyboards. You were just talking about it. But then you want to say, she says that he's never seen the version of Justice League. We knew about this a long time ago. And another thing I've seen people take out of context, the spokeswoman said Mr. Snyder wouldn't discuss a director's cut. And I have seen a lot of people take that and run with it, saying that Zack Snyder says there is no director's cut. I have seen several articles on that. It's amazing. It's amazing how people take things so out of context.
Well, yeah, it's got to fit their narrative. I love how Snyder's spokeswoman seems to be actually giving some information, but Joss Whedon doesn't say shit. Nope, declined to comment. Oh, well, Mr. Snyder, he's never seen Justice League. He's also not going to be at Comic-Con, just so you know, and there's also not a version of the Snyder Cut of Justice League, just so you know. Oh, man. I'm going to butcher this name, but I'm going to give it a go. Diego Marau? A retail sales worker in Rio de Janeiro is one of the fans who have rallied behind the motto, Release the Snyder Cut. Since late last year, they have organized campaigns on social media, produced online videos, and bombarded Warner Brothers executives with emails asking the studio to complete and distribute on Blu-ray a version of Justice League that matches Mr. Snyder's vision before Mr. Whedon got involved. Bombarded? You haven't seen nothing yet, Ben.
Well, I'm a mushroom cloud laying motherfucker.
Mr. Morale, who bought tickets for 5 different Justice League theater screenings before the film was even released, described watching them as the 5 stages of grief. Man, right there, my heart like sank. I feel for you. That sucks that you bought tickets for 5 different screenings and decided to watch them all. After one, I'd be like, fuck this. I want my money back. But he's stuck with it and said, oh, let me give it 5 opportunities to be better than the garbage that we got.
After AT&T Inc. completed its purchase of Time Warner last month, one fan messaged #ReleaseTheSnydercut to the telecom's customer service account on Twitter. He then posted a screenshot of the response from @AT&T Cares. We are constantly improving our service. Please keep checking back for an update on Release the Snyder Cut. An AT&T spokesman said I was an idiot and declined to comment.
What the fuck? So Snyder's spokesman is the only person who is willing to say anything?
I would have loved it if we got confirmation of the Snyder Cut through the AT&T spokesman. That would have been great. Yeah, we're working on it. Yeah. You didn't know this? We said it in our automated tweet.
That would have been fantastic.
This was so funny, and I find it hilarious that people in any manner took this serious. I thought it was hilarious. I want to actually just send random shit to it and see what else it will say.
Clearly an automated response. Fucking awesome.
We are constantly improving our service. Please keep checking back for an update on when the fucking Chargers will win the Super Bowl at AT&T. That's pretty much it. I'm going to start fucking asking. I'm going to start. It's like a magic 8 ball. I'm just going to keep asking it questions.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Please keep checking back for an update on when the Comic Movie Marks will have 1 million subscribers. we're constantly
the YouTube spokesman declined to comment.
Man.
A petition on change.org calling on the studio to make a complete Snyder Cut has more than 178,000 signatures, which I thought was nice of him to enter. This article is so wishy-washy. It goes back and forth to where it seems like it's has an intent, and then it goes into a whole different direction later on.
I think that's the point, and I give it to Ben. There is some creative writing thrown in there, is because he'll throw in some things of like, oh, like this is crazy. It has more than 178,000 signatures. He throws in some quotes, which we're about to get into, from Fiona, even from Chris Wong Swinson, some additional things. But then he also will spin it and say, oh, look how crazy these people are.
And it just turns out to be lazy writing, though, on some parts. It's like stuff that we've known, like the most common folk know. Just you learn from Zack Snyder's Vero about certain things here. You learn about other things just from the most basic things that we've known for quite a while. That I made the comment on our Twitter that this article was written in 2017. Like it harbors no new information at all, but we'll continue.
So then a quote from Fiona: "We want future films of the franchise to keep the same artistic integrity of previous works." He also mentions that Fiona runs the website for SnyderCut.com. And then in an email, not like the theatrical Justice League, which was downgraded to a mediocre action comedy representing the antithesis of everything we cherished. So well put from Fiona. Just kind of a side note, maybe if we have time, we'll read some of her entire correspondence with Ben, but there was actually some great stuff that she had screenshotted and floated out there of like, hey, if anyone was curious, here's my conversation with Ben, and he used hardly any of it. Typically, director's cuts come when a filmmaker's original intention was distorted by studio interference. In his reworked version of Blade Runner, Mr. Scott eliminated a voiceover imposed by producers for the 1982 theatrical release.
Really, that makes it a big deal? Oh, he got rid of a voiceover, so this is more legitimate
Right,
than
yeah,
a
exactly.
Snyder Cut. Gotcha.
Devotees have poured over every bit of information released about Justice League to find hints of the movie Mr. Snyder envisioned before the reshoots.
Unlike you, Mr. Ben.
Yeah, it did zero. Using early trailers, photos from production, and unused visual effects shot leaked online, they have picked out changes, including a discarded origin for the character Cyborg and a scene in which Mr. Whedon apparently cut Gotham City Police Commissioner Gordon saying "again" at the end of one line.
Really, out of all the changes, that's the ones you pick?
That's I actually kind of forgot about that, but yeah, that fucking bastard cut again.
I didn't bring a sword instead of my turn. Like, so many different things. There's just so many different changes that make no sense.
Some fans believe a Snyder Cut exists somewhere in the Warner Brothers vaults.
Vaults? Oh, I remember seeing trolls say that. Like, you think it's somewhere in a vault? Real quick, want to bring up a comment from Miss Margot Kidder herself regarding Superman 2. There's a whole other Superman 2 in a vault somewhere with scenes of Chris and me that haven't seen the light of day. It's far better than the one that was released.
Jordan fades back, swoosh, and that's the game! Nothing further, Your Honor.
Your condescending remark about a vault is just stupid.
Stupid and ignorant.
Margot Kidder herself even talked about how Superman 2 was in a vault. And it was in London. Apparently some guy stumbled over a box, as you put it.
But yeah, I was going to say, but wait a minute. No, someone kicked the box and dust flew up and he went, wait, what? What have we found here? Superman 2, holy shit, let's make a movie out of it. That includes Chris Wong Swinson of Honolulu, who has produced dozens of videos on the topic for his YouTube channel with titles like Silence and Disinformation, Justice League, Snyder Cut. In some, he self-mockingly wears a tinfoil hat. I love how he just mentions that as if we're all wearing tinfoil hats. I know it's not totally done, but I believe 100% there is a Snyder Cut of the film, Mr. Wong Swinson said in an interview. People who worked on Justice League say that while Mr. Snyder did assemble a rough cut after he finished principal photography in late 2016, the director never said he intended it to be released.
Tell him what's up, Lex.
Wrong!
We're back to the rough cut now? Are we seriously back to an assembly rough cut? Again, any kind of research would show Jay Oliva has already put that fucking situation down in the ground 6 feet. And we are way past rough cut or assembly cut. Again, we already got a picture on Vero from Snyder of Gal Gadot doing ADR work. We got color grading pictures from Snyder as well. Other videos that he released of Aquaman with finished VFX, done. You don't do that for a rough assembly cut. Jay Oliva has already said that. You wouldn't be doing ADR work on an assembly cut.
But the director never said he intended it to be released, because Mr. Snyder is supposed to come out and say, oh, here's my version.
Never compromise. Not even in the face of Armageddon.
They add that Mr. Snyder oversaw the new scenes Mr. Whedon wrote the following winter and had planned to shoot them himself before the death of his daughter prompted him to leave.
Wow. One more time, Lex.
Wrong!
Real quick, again, I am impressed that he actually uses that narrative instead of the fired one. Surprising. Maybe he doesn't know the fired one exists, actually, because his shitty-ass reporting.
That could be, but he also does say, like, oh, Mr. Snyder oversaw the new scenes that Mr. Whedon wrote. So basically saying that Snyder approved everything, which pretty sure that's not the fucking case. Maybe he approved some of the adjustments of like, okay, I get it. We need to lighten this up. Let's throw in some quips. But all of those scenes, and for his movie to be hacked to shreds, an entire Russian family that he didn't even know existed.
Exactly. And I think I got his source on this one. I think it's this guy right here.
Is there anything that you could tease about Justice League?
Well, I think you've seen some things out there, right? And we're excited about the film. Of course, you know, we were saddened by the events that caused Zack Snyder and Deborah Snyder to have to leave and turn the reins over to Joss Whedon. But he was already working with us on some of the scenes for the additional photography that we're going to be doing shortly, and it was fortunate that, you know, Zack convinced him and he agreed to step in and finish the movie, help Zack finish his vision, and we're excited about that.
And it's almost exactly word for word what he put in here. And that was in May of 2017. May, when Charles Roven said that. That's where he got this from. That's exactly where he got this from. That's his source on this, is the Charles Roven interview. Again, lazy. He wrote this in like early 2000 or mid 2017 or something. It's just pathetic.
Who are these people who won't stop talking about the magical Snyder Cut that doesn't exist?
Who the fuck are you, asshole? That's
yeah,
my question.
Exactly. One person close to the film. Okay, who the fuck is close to the film?
Person. You don't see who it is? It's Person.
Oh, my bad. Mr. Person.
That's his name. We just didn't realize it. Person.
This whole time. See, he does cite his sources.
There's a guy at my work. His last name is Guy. I'm not kidding. That's not a lie.
I'm sure it's probably Guy, maybe?
No, it's Guy.
No? Oh, okay. Fair
yeah,
enough.
They're like, hey, go talk to Guy. And I'm like, what Guy? I'm dead serious. This is actual moment.
You remember in French class where we got to pick our names and yours was Air Bear, but you kept saying Herbert?
Because that's what it was in English. And then Vas-y means go. And in French, Herbert is Air Bear. And I remember my teacher's like, Vas-y, Air Bear. I'm like, did you just call me a fuzzy bear? There we go. French class wrapped up in a nice tight bow. As Comic-Con approaches, some Snyder Cut supporters say they are more energized than ever. We are personally prepared for a long, drawn-out campaign, said Miss Zhang. Mr. Wong Swenson.
So swummy, slippy, slappy, Swanson?
Maybe it's on the briefcase. Look on the...
Oh, yeah! It's right here. Samsonite. I was way off.
Mr. Wong Swinson enthusiasm is beginning to flag. However, I think people will start losing hope if nothing is said by Comic-Con, he said. Which I completely agree with him. I hope he doesn't feel bad about saying that in any manner. I did see his video actually on this, and I kind of feel bad for him. He feels like he contributed to this in a negative fashion, but he just did what he was asked. And
yeah, he didn't know. He
didn't know what this guy was going to do. It could have been negative, could have been positive. He didn't know. And I completely agree with him on this. I've seen enough in our comments and other things where people are like, oh, we're going to get answers at Comic-Con. If we don't, that's it. And I'm like, wow, like, I don't know where that came from. Like, yeah, that's a big event, but are they really going to use that venue for it? It's going to be big no matter what time it's announced. announcing it at Comic-Con only means that it's going to overshadow other things as well.
Exactly.
I don't know exactly why people are giving up after Comic-Con.
So the final paragraph, he may end up with grim news for his YouTube subscribers. Warner Brothers has a huge presentation planned for Comic-Con Saturday to promote upcoming superhero movies, including Aquaman and Shazam. The studio isn't planning to mention a Snyder Cut or to release any alternate versions of Justice League, a senior executive confirmed.
I mean, it's just bullshit. Fuck. Oh, my.
And that's probably one of the best parts. A senior executive confirmed.
Yep, exactly. As if something that big, they're just going to release and say, yeah, we plan on talking about it. No, I don't fucking think so. The one thing that I wanted to talk about in terms of, and I'm going to try to do this as political as possible, but Chris, Wong Swenson, Fiona, anyone that talked to this Ben Fritz guy should not feel bad at all. And unfortunately, this is how the media is. This is how journalists, quote unquote, or bloggers like to use pull quotes to fit their narrative. And Jay Oliva even had his tweet, which we later found out that he spoke with Ben. And Jay says, I guess my interview with you didn't fit your narrative of crazy fans. Really disappointed in you, Ben. You had the chance to write an article that helped bring understanding to a movement about keeping the artistic integrity and creative freedom for future filmmakers.
Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
So clearly, Ben decided, like, oh, I'm going to interview all these people, do a great job. And it's unfortunate because these are some people who are so close to the Snyder Cut and who are very passionate about it, and Fiona, obviously Jay, Chris as well. It's sad that now they're going to be a little more skeptical when someone else reaches out to them of like, hey, I want to do something on the Snyder Cut. They're going to be like, oh, no, fuck off. All because Ben, who is a quote-unquote journalist, decided to take their quotes and paint a completely different picture than what they originally had intended. So they shouldn't feel bad at all.
Definitely don't feel bad about what was said. I think, actually, if anything, they're the most positive parts of the article, really.
Yeah.
What they said represented the community fairly well, and they're honest about it as well. So I feel that they were probably the better parts of this article. Again, what Shane was kind of saying, I'm going to kind of piggyback on that one. It's like, this is where this idea of fake news comes from. Really, this is it right here, is when lazy writing like this is done. And when it's on something so really in the grand scope of things, we got to be honest here. This is about a goddamn comic book movie. And when it's in that grand scope of things, when you can't even be honest about something as simple as a comic book movie, or even try for something as simple as a comic book movie to be a journalist, how are people in any fashion going to take you serious when it comes to actually more serious and pressing issues?
Yeah, absolutely.
Clearly, this is just lazy writing. Now, I've seen some people call it a hit piece. I don't really think it's a hit piece. I just think it's just really lazy writing. He could have found some really, really negative stuff if he wanted to. Because I've seen some really, really not so pleasant things when it does come to the Snyder Cut community. Of course, always going to be bad apples in every community. We all know that. He could have done a little bit more research and found the best things of the community, and he could have done more research and found the worst parts. And he could have done just the worst parts. And so the fact that he didn't completely out those, I do think it's not a complete hit piece, because he could have never even included any of these quotes from Fiona or Chris, and we would have gotten a completely different one. This would have just looked like a bunch of crazy people that have no clue what they're doing. He didn't have to bring up the change.org thing. He could have kept everybody minimalized as much as possible. He did bring that up, and then of course he has the other quote saying, who are these people talking about the magical Snyder Cut? Like this person doesn't know who we are or what this is right there. I mean, just look at Twitter. Just look at the graphs. Just look how much it's been escalating more and more and more. Just the hashtag itself. It can't be ignored for much longer. It just can't be. There's absolutely no possible way it could be ignored much longer. So the fact that this thing is just lazy writing is the issue. He didn't do much research, and the stuff he did was just half-assed. And I even take it from him himself. He even says in a tweet,
Ben says, just don't have the bandwidth to read through my 99 plus notifications now, but I have the general sense that some DC fans are grateful, some are pissed, and the rest of the world is interested, entertained, and or amused by this light-hearted story.
Light-hearted story. Again, that is having an outlook of not actually thinking like he made any headway at all. He knew he was going to get clicks because he timed this around Comic-Con. He didn't really do much research on it at all.
Yeah.
If you listen to actually Chris Wong's video, he barely even did a legitimate interview with him at all. Apparently, he was going in and out of cell service and only had about 30 minutes. Maybe he said more. I can't remember. But eventually, he got cut off, and the guy just never called him back. Then, as we talked about, he completely left out the Jay Oliva conversation. And Jay Oliva even said he had an over hour conversation with him. He left all that out. Fiona had several pages of screenshots of her conversation with him, left all that out.
Yeah, do yourself a favor and go to Fiona's page. It is kind of hard. She has 4 different parts, so it's kind of hard to find all of them. But it'll make you really appreciate her as just a spokeswoman for the Snyder Cut. Some of her answers were so well written. From what I understand, English is her second language, I want to say, and she's much a better writer. Yeah, all right. She's a way better writer and clearly speaker than I am, and it's some fantastic stuff, and really, really disappointed that none of that really got used in this article. I mean, she just did such a fantastic job at really putting it out there of like, this is exactly what we're fighting for, and how Man of Steel and Batman v Superman spoke to us, and why we're so disappointed in Justice League.
We're not going to tear down Ben Fritz. He went in, he did the easy money. That's what this was all about. Easy money. It was timed in a way where he knew he'd get a lot of clicks, a lot of traffic through his website. The one thing that really does, though, irk me, that one thing that really grinds my gears, if you would say, is the fact that so many of these lesser websites took a lot of this information and ran with it and acted like it was real. And it just really bugs me also that some people just don't go back to the source material. This guy literally ends this article with the studio isn't planning to mention a Snyder Cut or release any alternate version of Justice League. A senior executive confirmed. That's it. And now we have tons of articles of people saying WB confirmed Snyder Cut. There will be no Snyder Cut at Comic-Con. And they do not plan to release the Snyder Cut. Off that one sentence.
Yeah.
And we got several tweets and several comments of people saying, "Oh, I guess there's no Snyder Cut." And I'm like, "Come on, guys. You can't go back to that. You can't sit there and look at that and think that's even an iota of journalism." It's
not at all. Not from someone who has the integrity of. I'm just gonna fade off right there before I start going into a rant. But obviously, from a quote unquote journalist of Ben Fritz's caliber, I would not take that. I would take that with a very, very small grain of salt, as others like to say.
Polygon reacting to that one paragraph where he said they add that Mr. Snyder oversaw the new scenes from Mr. Whedon, wrote the following winter, and had planned to shoot them himself before the death of his daughter, which is that thing that was regurgitated several times by the cast and everybody, which was a PR spin. We know that now more than ever. You could tell by looking at the movie. Like, even if he knew actually about Snyder movies, you could tell and look, just like we saw in that Screen Rant article where he said it was nothing like a Zack Snyder movie. You can tell the adjustments if you know even a shit about the Snyder movies. And then Polygon, off that paragraph, releases an article saying, the title saying, "Release the Snyder Cut campaign contradicts Zack Snyder's wishes for Justice League." Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? One, the cast and producers like Charles Roven were saying that junk in May of last year, right after it happened. May and June. And you just now want to write this? Just now? You just want to start saying that because there's a Snyder Cut movement? So now you're saying we're contradicting it? It was not new news. It was something that was spewed out a long time ago. And we know it was a PR spin. Because they're not going to say, "Hey, we're shitting all over the movie and completely changing it. Go see Justice League November 17th. It's actually amazing. Somebody actually brought this attention. I'm trying not to drag this out too long, but if you actually look at that Comic-Con trailer, by the way, fascinating to watch that Comic-Con trailer because you can see them taking over the movie in that trailer alone if you really watch it. Now that we know so much, you see the beginning, you watch the first couple minutes and you see the town. You see that town at the end. The beginning of the trailer has it blue, has it that darker blue, And then by the end of the trailer, it's to that reddish orange that we saw in the movie. You can literally see the color changing in the trailer, that they were in the process of doing it. It's crazy to watch that trailer, and you could slowly see some of the Whedon parts and what the executives wanted inserted in the movie. Slowly. It's still like half a Snyder trailer. It's actually very an interesting watch if you really look at it and examine it. But this guy, again, Ben Fritz, lazy writing. A lot of people were banking on this, that it was going to mean something. To be honest, I'm not going to say we don't care, but I didn't really expect anything out of somebody from the Wall Street Journal, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't expect this to be anything revolutionary. It wasn't going to change anything, how I felt about anything. I didn't really think it was going to do anything. I just thought it was cool that I thought it was kind of cool that some of the people were getting recognized, like Fiona and Chris. I thought that was kind of cool. I was like, oh, okay. So maybe it's just a small op-ed piece about, just how the community is. Similar to that Screen Rant article by Stephen Colbert. I thought that's kind of what it was. I'm like, oh, it's going to be like that. Okay. But no, this is just lazy. Just lazy. At the end of the day, very lazy. No research. He didn't really try. He put this together to get a paycheck. And and hopefully he's probably laughing at us right now as he goes and probably buys himself a new vibrator.
I have nothing else to add after that.
So hopefully this lived up to the hype in some manner. We'll see how the video turns out. We tried to shorten it up, but as usual, we can't do short. We go long and hard and deep.
Always. Sure, something like that.
With Ben Fritz's new vibrator. In case I don't see you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Congratulations, you made it to the end of the video. You're one of very few to make it to the end.
Yes, thank you very much.
Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to Comic Movie Marks Podcast and hit the notification bell. All these fucking YouTube channels say this shit, so I'm going to say it now.
Yes, it's perfect. And if you want to hear our full podcast, you can check out our podcast on iTunes or any other podcast subscription service.
Make sure you subscribe. Thanks again.